Top 5 coaches who fans are stuck with, at least for a bit. And sometimes this is not going to be it's not going to be all about bashing. Sometimes it's just about, like, look, your university's made this decision. You need to let them run for a little bit. But there are things, and I read probably 5 different columns over the last 2 days about buyouts and fully guaranteed contracts, and all pretty much hinging around our number one guy, but some of these other names just kept popping up all over. So number 5, Brent Venables. Oklahoma's going to see this out for a little bit. I know that the way that things turned in the early part of the season were not good, but they're going to see this out. And look, Dylan Gabriel's back. The offense is better with him there, much, much better. It's actually functional with him there. The defense, you're going to have to give him a little while to figure that out. The guy's a defensive guru for a reason, but I do think that hearing a lot of the fans go, like, all of a sudden having buyer's remorse on all of it is kind of silly to me. But again, they're going to stick it out for a little while.
Well, I can say this because I'm one of them, but OU fans are freaking spoiled. And they had to face some adversity for the first time. And I don't mean like adversity as in lost a game and like, oh, no, we lost a game and we're out of the playoff or whatever. But I mean like, oh, gosh, like an existential crisis. That there hasn't been it's been a long time since they've had to face that potentially. And I think that's, jarring. And it's hard to face that when you've had pretty much, cruise control for 20 years. Basically over 20 years. So, yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow getting off to the rough start. But I think, there was some encouraging signs. Like you said, having Dylan Gabriel back, that makes a world of difference for this offense. And you can at least say, okay, a couple of their stumbles, they didn't have their guy. Now, Jackson Arnold's giving them plenty of hope. I mean, by the way, did y'all see that Denton Guyer Allen score? I don't even know if we mentioned that on Friday.
I didn't see the score. I watched it.
Louise.
Yeah, Arnold was destroyed. Allen
you commit Jackson Arnold, quarterback at Guyer.
Is it a Bowen? Bowen, the kid that's committed to Notre Dame, was unbelievable. Yeah, they're really
Allen got trashed on national television. It was bad, but Jackson Arnold's gonna get people excited about the post Gabriel era. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Iowa State up first now, or up next, I should say. And, man, they are just this close to being, like, unbeaten in Big 12 play and winning every single game. But it's just not enough in the tank for them. So, yeah, let's see how the rest of this plays out. But I think people are going to calm down a little when it comes to Venables.
Yeah. Doing the big one, too, by the way, I have to make my picks on Monday for the Big 12 because we have them on the show tonight. That comes up at 6:30 right here.
In Ames.
Yeah, but it's in Ames, and like I'm picking Oklahoma just because Dylan Gabriel makes that much of a difference to me. Yeah. But, like if Iowa State found a way to win this one and send OU back into a spiral, wouldn't shock me at all either.
No, they're due.
Yeah. Number 4, Mel Tucker. He and Jimbo Fisher almost had the identical contract, by the way. 10 years, $95 million. I think Mel Tucker's is slightly less guaranteed, but Michigan State is not just going to turn around and go, okay, here you go. Here's $84 million.
Yeah.
Oopsie-daisy.
Yeah.
They're going to let him find it, and they should. They absolutely should. But part of the thing is I'm maybe telling you to reserve your complaints or to funnel them in the right direction when it comes to the coaches not living up to it so far. But Mel Tucker, a year after he got that, and again, there's so much argument to be made that you're to kind of negotiate against yourself. And if a guy wants to leave, sometimes you should just let him. Because if you believe in the solidarity or the direction of your athletic department, you should be fine. But not everybody has that top-down president, AD, coach alignment. And then if a coach leaves, they can find another one who can just find in.
And they also know that even though they have had a really good run against Michigan, and they've been good, but, you have Michigan right there, still there. You have Ohio State, who's the juggernaut. And yeah, they probably bid against themselves. And
I know probably about it. I mean, they definitely did bid against themselves in some ways.
And you hope that for his sake, he turns it around. I had Reed Heim on, who coaches at Denton Guyer, by the way. He coached under Mel Tucker. He was a quality assistant at Colorado. And he raved about it, about all the details and stuff.
And part of that was Michigan State still scarred from the last time LSU had a coach opening and wanted their coach, and that was Nick Saban.
Oh, yeah.
So they maybe even reacted to something that was 20 years ago a little bit too much. History kind of stays with people a little bit more.
There's some things, kind of the big cigar smoking like dog, pictures and like the kind of the tough guy stuff that he was putting out. And after a very successful season that I saw a lot of people complaining about, and now they're using it as like fodder to turn around on him. So, people are having fun at his expense because last year there was, they had a
Kenneth
great
Walker,
year.
look what he's doing right now.
Well, and you got to take that into account when you're talking about this year in Michigan State. Like, you don't just lose him and just everything's just okay, on to the next thing. You don't rely on transfers as much as they did. And that's always going to happen. Like, I mean, there were some things that bounced their way last year. So, like, yeah, he's a guy that's not going anywhere, obviously, but right now finds himself, in a tough spot and with a very crucial game coming up this weekend that, depending on how that goes, that's going to be the interesting conversation, is if they go out and they get blown away by Michigan, like, how much are we hearing about Mel Tucker and Michigan State, on Sunday? But if they go there and they play a respectable game, then, maybe that quiets down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they kind of dug themselves this hole, and whether or not it's a hole or it's just, a temporary pit, we'll find out. But they don't have an enviable schedule. They still got 3 top 25 teams with 5 games remaining. That's at Michigan, at number 17 Illinois, at number 13 Penn State. They got Rutgers and Indiana, which are gimmies in between there. But even with those 2 wins, that's still short of a bowl game.
I don't even know if those are gimmies. I don't know if Rutgers is. Yeah,
well, Indiana's a definitely gimme. But yeah, they're going to be cutting it close to making a bowl game.
Yeah, number 3, Mario Cristobal. I think Miami fans thought he was going to come and completely turn things around right away. And look, Tyler Van Dyke has regressed, but after what happened against Duke this weekend, it kind of shows you where Miami really was, because they just cratered against the Blue Devils. And yes, they have a new commitment in the athletic department to building facilities and all this stuff, but that stuff isn't there yet. It's a little harder to sell a picture of a new facility than it is to sell the facility. And
just because he played on those great teams doesn't mean he'll bring them back.
No.
Scott Frost.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've got a long way to go. There's depth issues there at Miami. That Duke game will live in infamy, and it'll take a long time for him to wash that off. He's going to have to do a lot of things and actually win the ACC, something Miami has never done, to probably wash it off.
Yeah, and Van Dyke's hurt, so it's, and I don't know if that's good news or bad news, quite frankly, at this stage. But yeah, no, massive disappointment. I'm, part of me just being devilish is kind of chuckling at certain Miami fans who are very loud and obnoxious and braggadocious about all the NIL money that they were going to, spend this offseason or were spending. And there's just a lot of trash talk going on. And it's kind of funny because I know this offseason, it'll be same fans lining up from the same programs doing the same thing. But, yeah, there's a little bit of like, you kind of deserve that based on how you were talking. But, yeah, it's been rough. And I don't know, man. It's very curious.
They lost 5 fumbles in that game?
Yeah.
They're not a very good football team.
Fumbles,
but I think Mike Elko deserves a lot of credit with Duke.
3 interceptions?
I think Mike Elko deserves a lot of credit as a first-year head coach at Duke. He's doing some good things there.
Yeah, former A&M.
Yeah. Mario Cristobal, by the way, did the if you don't want to be here, don't be here after that game, which is always a bad thing. Number 2, Kirk Ferentz. Look, they've had 2 coaches in 700 years at Iowa, in Hayden Fry and him. That's who they've had. And they'll let him retire. And they'll let him begrudgingly, like, he'll do that.
Like Chuck Nolan, Bill Cowher.
Yeah,
Mike
that's
Tomlin
what they
type
do
stuff.
at Iowa. So as much as the fans may be mad about the offense, and maybe he'll move his son to a different job, but Kirk Ferentz has earned at Iowa the right to go out on his own terms, even though there can be people who will push him out, but that's just not what they do. It's not in their culture.
Also include his son?
I mean, he might move him around, but they've got to do something about that, because it's Craig used the term malpractice last week, and I think it's probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ridiculous what's going on there as far as that offense goes. I think it really sucks for those really incredible defensive players that they have, that they're obviously giving it every effort imaginable to even make games remain close and give them even the fighting chance, and yet it's all for naught because there's just nothing doing on the offensive side of things. And I would be so pissed as an Iowa fan right now. Like, this is what you're presenting me on a weekly basis. And then it'd be one thing if you're like, okay, well, let's get, but like you're just acting like it's not a problem, and it's so very clearly a problem, and that's what would make me even more mad. Like that is what would flip me from just being disappointed to being angry about the response. Is trying to tell me that I'm not seeing what I'm seeing, and this isn't as bad as it looks. Yeah. But I mean, he's a lifer there. He's not going anywhere. They'll still win some games like 7-3 or whatever. I did see where Pat Fitzgerald, we're getting Iowa and Northwestern coming up, and joked that they should kick off at 6 a.m. So nobody would have to watch that, but that'll be something. I don't know what, but that'll be something.
Yeah, Kirk Ferentz at this point is the Monty Python. It's only a flesh wound guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And number 1, Jimbo Fisher owns the Texas A&M athletic department. Andy Stables wrote a great column about this today.
I saw it.
They gave him every drop of power in this. 0 buyout if he wanted to leave on his own, and fully guaranteed if they wanted him to leave of their volition. They're going to have to strongly suggest he change some things, but he does not have to listen.
That contract's the picture of desperation, man.
That's what I was going to say. Were they that desperate?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely they were.
Yeah.
They felt like they were close. They felt like they were knocking on the door over and over, and they just needed that championship pedigree head coach to put it all together because someone couldn't, finish the job. And here they are, and they're in a contract that they are just totally screwed in getting out of.
That's almost criminal, the contract.
No, it's on. I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's on the up and up, and a lot of big donors.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's almost criminal. He had them in that situation where everything's guaranteed, and he can leave anytime.
It would be if he was blackmailing them to get it, but they were the ones that were like, no, look, because he didn't just say yes right away. They added, and it ends up to where he's got the contract he has now. I will say Neil Brown's going to be on this list as like asterisk number 6 or whatever, because it's just writings on the wall there in Morgantown. I'm not going to deny that anymore. So, yeah.